Human beings are very strange. We have the power to analyze and explore the world around us, but we panic as soon as the evidence threatens to violate our expectations.
We imagine a future, and what we see is frightening.
After all, what makes us human?
You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts.
I am a human being. I am not a...
I am an animal. I am a human being.
We are animals, but at the same time, we should be more than animals.
More than animals, but in what sense? The discussions about what makes us human can be quite broad. Some focus on the technical or scientific side, others on the psychological or moral side, and both are valid. In this video, though, I want to focus on behavior. That's why I went after the renowned ethologist Frans de Waal, who dedicated practically his whole life to understanding animal behavior, especially that of primates. And one of the most interesting conclusions from his studies is that several traits, which are commonly thought to be unique to humans, can be found in different species throughout the animal kingdom. So, empathy, cooperation, altruism, memory, self-recognition, conflict resolution, tool use, communication, future planning, humor, sense of justice, cultural behaviors, etc. What's interesting is that these discoveries by Waal and other specialists ended up being somewhat uncomfortable for some people, since they, in a way, bring us closer to animals, showing how we share various abilities and even moral characteristics that we previously believed to be exclusively human. And the point is that this bothers us, because as a species we need that sense of superiority. Maybe even for an instinctive reason. We never want to put ourselves in a position that, in some way, makes us feel that our sovereignty in the world is threatened. And that's exactly why I like fiction so much, especially those that make us pick up a mirror and look at our human nature in the world from a perspective that the current configuration of the world doesn't allow. So, when I watch some of these dystopian movies, they give me the clear feeling that many of our moral characteristics and traits that we like to say make us human are actually a product of the favorable conditions we've assumed as a species, of our long-standing dominance on Earth. These movies invite us, even briefly, to revisit our origins and imagine who we'd be without today's conditions. And here you can even broaden this thought to your social condition, or to any other aspect that influences your way of being. Because the big question is, who are we really, as a species and as individuals?
The big man in armor. Who are you without it?
This question can be intriguing, because it destroys many of the things you believe are part of your essence. And that's exactly the point. It's about being able to transcend your environment, to go beyond the context of your life, both to understand yourself and to understand others. And what I find most interesting about this discussion is that nowadays you hear more and more about self-knowledge, about the search for an inner truth. But I see this search being done very superficially. I believe that perhaps out of a certain fear, we refuse to dive into our essence. Whatever seems unpleasant or truths we don't want, we discard. This leads me to think man isn't seeking truth, the world, or himself, but rather comforts to endure existence.
The idea of literally turning the world upside down and seeing human nature in another species allows us to put the human condition under a microscope in a very interesting way.
I think the trilogy directed by Matt Reeves, Planet of the Apes, is simply spectacular. And that's exactly why I couldn't have chosen another movie to illustrate the idea of this video. For those who haven't seen it, it's essentially another story about a failed human attempt at technological advancement. A discovery meant to benefit humanity instead gives apes intelligence, leading them to challenge human dominance. From there, a dispute begins between man and ape, a conflict that, symbolically, can also be understood as a clash between civilized man and primitive or wild man. I'm saying this because we're seeing a new ape species emerge, a species that visually even looks the same, but inside begins to carry human mental capacity with one detail, without inheriting its culture, history, or beliefs. It's as if you came into this world guided only by your instincts and your own life experiences, as if you and your generation were the starting point of human consciousness. And therefore, you don't carry cultural traits, beliefs, or any other behavioral traits that can be transferred through communication. It's a very interesting constructed situation in which human beings overnight have to deal with the emergence of a species that is similar enough to be considered equal, but also distinct enough to make harmonious coexistence extremely difficult.
Respecting each other, living together with love.
Love, the way of humans, is violence and death.
One of the most fascinating things about the saga is that as the conflict unfolds and we see the apes gradually taking over the world, we witness them becoming more and more civilized, while humans become increasingly savage. The disadvantageous situation he experiences makes man live the nightmare of seeing his humanist soul being defeated by his inner faith, by the animal that had been dormant inside him, showing that some situations in life can lead us to regress to a more savage state.
Caesar is the most human character in these movies, even though he's an ape, not a human.
As the story unfolds, the apes become more and more organized, more and more civilized, with the clear understanding that if they are not united, they don't stand a chance. The apes realize that unity is their main weapon in this war.
Apes together, strong.
Ape. Don't kill.
Unity for them is not just a purely moral issue, as many might imagine, but a matter of survival. And there's also an interesting detail here, because the more the monkey moves toward dominating the planet, the harder it becomes to maintain that unity, because the more their survival is assured, the freer they are to explore other issues. And we, human beings, are proof of that. The dominance of our species allowed us to look at the world with new eyes, to overcome more basic problems in order to deal with more complex ones. Our greatest threats became ourselves, and because of that, we started to condemn and attack each other.
The only real danger that exists is man himself.
Monkeys, as a representation of what primitive man would be, also go through this process. As they grow more organized, disagreements begin to arise. Different worldviews and internal conflicts, something that Caesar, the leader of the monkeys, once believed was exclusive to humans, start to happen.
I always thought that monkeys were better than humans. Now I see how similar we are to them.
That's probably Caesar's big mistake in the movie, the naivety of believing that with monkeys, the story would be different, as if they had inherited only the good side of humans without the traits that make them so self-destructive, when in fact, they didn't inherit the good or the bad traits, but only the mental capacity of man. The developments that happen next are simply natural consequences of a species that developed a complex language. And, going back to the question of what makes us human, I would say that perhaps the main trait that sets us apart from other species is the ability to develop a complex language. Interestingly, we often take it for granted and see it as natural, rarely stopping to consider its implications. But it's language that allows us to organize and communicate complex information. It's what enables us to shape our identity and the world around us. And what the movie makes me think about is that this state of evolution and this freedom to conceptualize our own reality couldn't come without a burden. Because while language is able to connect us, allowing us to organize and communicate complex information, it also carries the ability to separate us. After all, it's thanks to this tool that we become able to translate our personal experiences, to internalize our conversations. And this makes us more unique, making it harder to have a shared truth. But in my view, that's still not the main message of the movie.
When we hate you, we hate our dark side.
Looking at these monkeys allows us to imagine how the process that made the world the way it is today began. And on the other hand, when we look at humans, we see how much of that animal side we still have within us. A side that our adopted living conditions make us forget and judge when it appears. The evolution of humanity has convinced us that instinct, our most sensitive animal side, is a weakness, because it's not as trainable as reason. And that's why we devalue our feelings to always prioritize reason.
We think too much and feel too little.
One of the most disappointing conclusions the movie leads us to is that we are a product of our environment. That there is no reason that makes us completely transcend the conditions imposed on us, making us understand that we cannot fully separate ourselves from our environment, and that therefore our circumstances define a good part of who we are. That said, it's worth highlighting what may be one of the best dialogues in the movie.
Caesar. Weak. Koba. Weaker.
Just so you understand the dialogue, Caesar, the leader of the apes, is a pacifist, someone who fights as much as possible for harmonious coexistence between humans and apes, someone who manages to keep kindness in his heart to the fullest during a time of turmoil. But Koba sees Caesar's kindness as a sign of weakness.
Caesar is weak.
His violent heart shows no mercy for humans, which is explained by the abuse he suffered from them most of his life. When Caesar says that Koba is weaker, I believe he means that Koba is someone who was completely shaped by his life circumstances, someone who couldn't escape the hatred that humans caused him. But what Caesar might not have considered until this moment is that he, to some extent, was also shaped by his environment. Raised kindly by a man, he had a life experience opposite to Koba's, a fact he will only realize later on, when a man also causes him a lot of pain.
I am like Koba. He couldn't escape his own hatred. I still haven't escaped mine.
And the thought I wanted to share here is that maybe the concept of humanity deep down is the ability to be more than what life offers us. It's the awareness that there's always more than what we've been shown, the perception that we can change, go beyond, that we can become better, that a bad situation can be overcome. It's our ability to perceive the world in a broader way without the arrogance of thinking we know it, or that at some point we'll know all the vastness of the universe, but being sure that we can explore it whenever we're feeling insufficient. I don't know. I don't know.
No matter how hard it gets, or how lost you feel, you need to promise me that you'll keep hope. Keep it alive. We must rise above our suffering. My wish for you is that you become hope. People need that. And even if you fail, is there any better way to live?